Book 3 The Arts and Education, The Republic by Plato. Socrates Adeimantus. Such then, I said, are our principles of theology. Some tales are to be told and others are not to be told, who are disciples from their youth upwards. If we mean them to honor the gods and their parents and to value friendship with one another. Yes, and I think that our principles are right, he said. But if they are to be courageous, must they not learn other lessons beside these, and lessons of such a kind as will take away the fear of death? Can any man be courageous who has a fear of death in him? Certainly not, he said. Can he be fearless of death, or will he choose death in battle rather than defeat in slavery? Who believes the world below to be real and terrible? Impossible. Then we must assume control over the narrators of this class of tales as well as over the others, and beg them not simply to revile, but rather to command the world below, intimating to them that their descriptions are untrue, and will do harm to our future warriors. That will be our duty, he said. Then I said, we shall have to obliterate many obnoxious passages, beginning with the verses. I would rather be a serf on the land of a poor and portionless man than rule over all the dead who have come to naught. We must also expunge the verse which tells us how Pluto feared, lest the mansions grim and squalid which the gods arbor should be seen both of mortals and immortals. And again, O heavens, verily in the house of Hades there is soul in ghostly form, but no mind at all. Again, Tiresias, to him even after death did Persephone grant mind, that he alone should be wise, but their other souls are flitting shades. Again, the soul flying from the limbs had gone to Hades, lamenting her fate, leaving manhood and youth. Again, and the soul with a shrilling cry passed like smoke beneath the earth. And as bats in hollow of mystic cavern, whenever any of them has dropped out of the string and falls from the rock, fly shrilling and cling to one another, so did they with shrilling cry hold together as they moved. And we must beg Homer and the other poets not to be angry if we strike out these and similar passages, not because they are unpoetical or unattractive to the popular ear, but because the greater the poetical charm of them, the less are they meet for the ears of boys and men who are meant to be free, and who should fear slavery more than death. Undoubtedly. Also, we shall have to reject all the terrible and appalling names which describe the world below, cactus and sticks, ghosts under the earth, and sapless shades, and any similar word of which the very mention causes a shudder to pass through the inmost soul of him who hears them. I do not say that these horrible stories may not have a use of some kind, but there is a danger that the nerves of our guardians may be rendered too excitable and effeminate by them. There is a real danger, he said. Then we must have no more of them. True. Another and a nobler strain must be composed and sung by us, clearly. And shall we proceed to get rid of the weepings and wailings of famous men? They will go with the rest. But shall we, writing in getting rid of them, reflect our principle is that the good man will not consider death terrible to any other good man who is his comrade? Yes, that is our principle. And therefore he will not sorrow for his departed friend, as though he had suffered anything terrible. He will not. Such an one as we further maintain is sufficient for himself and his own happiness, and therefore is least in need of other men. True, he said. And for this reason the loss of a son or brother or the deprivation of fortune is to him of all men least terrible, assuredly. And therefore he will be least likely to lament, and will bear with the greatest equanimity any misfortune of this sort which may befall him. Yes, he will feel such a misfortune far less than another. Then we shall be right in getting rid of the lamentations of famous men, and making them over to women, and not even to women who are good for anything, or to men of a baser sort, that those who are being educated by us to be the defenders of their country may scorn to do the like. That will be very right. Then we will once more entreat Homer and the other poets not to depict Achilles, who was the son of a goddess, first lying on his side, then on his back, and then on his face, then starting up and sailing in a frenzy along the shores of the barren sea, now taking the sooty ashes in both his hands and pouring them over his head, or weeping and wailing in the various modes which Homer has delineated, nor should he describe Priam, the kinsman of the gods, as praying and beseeching, rolling in the dirt, calling each man loudly by his name. Still more earnestly will we beg of him at all events not to introduce the gods, lamenting and saying, Alas, my misery, alas, that I bore the bravest to my sorrow. But if he must introduce the gods, at any rate, let him not dare so completely to mispresent the greatest of the gods as to make him say, O heavens! With my eyes verily I behold a dear friend of mine chased round and round the city, and my heart is sorrowful. Or again, woe is me that I am fated to have Sarpedon, dearest of men to me, subdued at the hands of Patroclus, the son of Menoetius. For if my sweet Adeimantus, our youth seriously listened to such unworthy representations of the gods, instead of laughing at them as they ought, hardly will any of them deem that he himself, being but a man, can be dishonored by similar actions, neither will he rebuke any inclination which may arise in his mind to say and do the like, and instead of having any shame or self-control, he will be always whining and lamenting on slight occasions. Yes, he said, that is most true. Yes, I replied, but that surely is what ought not to be, as the argument that has just proved to us, and by that proof we must abide until it's disproved by a better. It ought not to be. Neither ought our guardians to be given to laughter, for a fit of laughter which has been indulged to excess almost always produces a violent reaction. So I believe. Then persons of worth, even if only mortal men, must not be represented as overcome by laughter, and still less much such a representation of the gods be allowed. Still less of the gods, as you say, he replied. Then we shall not suffer such an expression to be used about the gods as that of Homer when he describes how inextinguishable laughter arose among the blessed gods when they saw Hephaestus bustling about the mansion. On your views we must not admit them. On my views, if you like to father them on me, that we must not admit them is certain. Again, true should be highly valued. If, as we were saying, a lie is useless to the gods and useful only as a medicine to men, then the use of such medicine should be restricted to physicians. Private individuals have no business with them. Clearly not, he said. Then if anyone at all is to have the privilege of lying, the rulers of the state should be the persons, and they, in their dealings either with enemies or with their own citizens, may be allowed to lie for the public good. But nobody else should meddle with anything of the kind, and although the rulers have this privilege, for a private man to lie to them in return is to be deemed a more heinous fault than for the patient or the pupil of a gymnasium not to speak the truth about his own bodily illness to the physicians or the trainer, or for a sailor not to tell the captain what is happening about the ship and the rest of the crew, and how things are going with himself or his fellow sailors. Most true, he said. If then the ruler catches anybody besides himself lying in the state, any of the craftsmen, whether he be priest or physician or carpenter, he will punish him for introducing a practice which is equally subversive and destructive of ship or state. Most certainly, he said. If our idea of the state is ever carried out, in the next place, our youth must be temperate. Certainly. Are not the chief elements of temperance, speaking generally, obedience to commanders and self-control and sensual pleasures? True. Then we shall approve such languages as that of Diomed and Homer. Friends, sit still and obey my word, and the verses which follow. The Greeks marched breathing prose, in silent awe of their leaders, and other sentiments of the same kind. We shall order this line, O heavy with wine, who has the eyes of a dog and the heart of a stag, and other words which follow. Would you say that these or any similar impertinence which private individuals are supposed to address to their rulers, whether in verse or prose or well or ill spoken? They are ill spoken. They may very possibly afford some amusement, but they do not conducive to temperance, and therefore they are likely to do harm to our young men. You would agree with me there? Yes. And then again, to make the wisest of men say that nothing in his opinion is more glorious than we